we are turning our attention at 8:36 this morning to the weekend's hurling. Tommy Walsh is back with us. Tommy, how are you getting on?
Yeah, good morning, Owen.
Let's start with what I presume is the big one in your eyes, Galway versus Kilkenny, Sunday, 2 o'clock, Henry versus Cody. I presume this relationship was as warm as Brian Cody relationship can be during the playing days?
Absolutely. Like Henry was kind of his go-to man, really. You could trust him. Henry was probably a role model to everybody. He was able to get on with the young lads, the older guys, and he had that professionalism. Like he wouldn't be out in the town. You wouldn't have to worry about him off the field. Like his diet would be 100%, his gymming would be 100%. So he totally trusted him. He was his main man. And like I suppose you could compare it to maybe Jimmy McGuinness and Michael Murphy, looking at it from the outside, I'd say. Know nothing about that relationship, but it looked like the two boys up north, they really were at one with their thoughts on the game and that. And it was the same with Brian and Henry. And I suppose he was his go-to man in the field. And the fact that since probably 19 years of age, from 1999 when he came in on the panel, he backed it up with his performances. So, he was definitely his lieutenant on the field,
Dion Fanning had a great line once about Roy Keane as a manager, and he said it is said that when Roy Keane is in times of trouble as a manager, he thinks, what would Brian Clough do? The problem with Clough was that usually involved having a drink, right? So in terms of, and I don't know, does he think, like, if I were a manager, will I be like Fergie? But Tommy, in times of like deep stress and in times of which management will entail, will he look into what Cody was, or will he draw from Cody in terms of what he's going to be as a manager?
Yeah, I think you always learn from the best, Johnny. So Henry's a very intelligent man. He does very well professionally. He does very well in all aspects of his life. So he will take parts of, I'd say, Brian Cody that he can bring with his personality, because you have to stamp your own personality on it. Otherwise, it just won't last long, Johnny. People will see through you. You can copy someone else all you want, but that'll only work for a couple of months, a year, I'd say, at max. But after that, like, it's your own personality will always shine through at times of need. So I think Henry in his own right has won a lot, in the management. He's won 2 Club All-Irelands, 2 county finals when Ballyhale hadn't been going so well. So this guy has thought on his feet. He has went through tricky situations, matches where they were down by a couple of points, come back with last-minute goals, matches where they were favourites, a county semi-final against Castlecomer a couple of years ago. It looks like in Henry's first year that they were gone. They're after having a bad league campaign, which in Kilkenny, it's Championship League. It's like, we'll say, the current format in the Inter-County Series. It all affects your championship standings. And they didn't go well. They ended up in the bottom. There's 2 groups of 6, Johnny, in the Kenny Club Championship. They were in the bottom 2, which means that if you lose, you're in relegation. So no one has ever, come out of that. Like, it's the top 4 are seeded in each group. Sorry, the top 2 in each group. If you're in the bottom 4, you're into a championship first round. So no one, as far as I can remember, no one coming out of the first round ever won the county final. It was always one of the top seeded teams. And in Henry's first year, they had a poor campaign, ended up in that first round and went on and won the county final. So this guy has been in sticky situations. He can rely on his own kind of experiences nearly at this stage and add in Brian Cody's. Like, I'd say the biggest thing he probably took from it would be when Henry finished up hurling, he went straight into club management. So he would still have been very friendly with the likes of TJ, Colin, the Mullinses, and all the club players. So, like, Brian Cody, once, say, from October to January, you could have the crack with Brian. It'd be great fun and, chats and that, like, friendship kind of things. But once you came back from the team holiday, it was professional. So when you went in, like, he was there to do his job and you were there, to do your job. And I'd say Henry probably learned that maybe, took a little bit of that off Brian, so that he knows, like, when he was over Ballyhale, like, he had nephews on the team, he had best friends, but he probably had to take a step back, maybe not go down to social occasions. Not that he was big into them anyway, but, a little bit of a standoff, just because on the big day he'd have to make big decisions, and like them guys, the own Codys and these guys, like, they weren't automatic starters at the time. So, you had that whole side of things as well. So I'd say the one aspect he would have took off Brian would be standards and, to realise that you're not a player anymore, that you're their manager and you'll have to make tough decisions.
It does feel that Kilkenny are coming into this weekend under the radar, probably just because of the fixture list. There's been higher profile games that have happened, and Kilkenny haven't been part of them just yet. Like, it's too complicated to read into, say, how Laois performed against Dublin versus how they performed against Kilkenny, and Kilkenny will never judge themselves against by how they get on against Laois. But still, the score lines that Laois and the scores that they shipped in the space of 1 week is pretty striking, and says to me that Kilkenny are pretty ruthless already earlier on this year, and are kind of looking at, not that anybody wants a number 2 tag, but are kind of looking at Waterford and seeing them as a level just below Limerick and saying, I think we deserve to be there.
Yeah, you're right. From all of that, Owen, you're 100% right. Where are they? We don't really know yet, but there's great signs. Like the last day, I was in at the Kilkenny versus Laois match. Adrian Mullen was back to his absolute best. He was out around the middle. And I think, I scored 6 points. If you look at Limerick, we'll say, who are the standard bearers at the moment, like how many scores are they scoring from out the field on? Like Hegarty always pops up with a good few points. Cian Lynch, Tom Morrissey, go back the field. Then midfielders, the last, although Dara Donovan scored a nice bit the last day and that got him out of trouble, it usually comes from their half-back line. Hannon usually ships up 1 or 2. Kyle Hayes maybe a goal and a couple of points, and especially Dermot Burns. So I think to compete with there's so many sharp hook outs and getting it out to that middle third, a lot of talk and a lot of stats around that at the moment. So if it's out there a lot, you have to have scorers out there. So I think Kilkenny, TJ's back. I know he's full forward last Sunday against Laois, but he'll probably be out the field a bit more. So I'd say Kilkenny going back traditionally, if you got the ball in the half back line or midfield, give it into the forwards. Don't shoot. Let the forwards do their job. Trust them. Now we have to think a little bit different. The ball is a bit lighter. The average score in a match isn't 14, 15 points anymore. It's nearly 25 to 30 points. So you have to be scoring them out the field now on. So I think, James Maher is back in the field, in midfield the last day. He played very, very well. Connor Brown will be, son of Angela Downey, star, absolute one of the greatest camogie players of all time. He's back in the half-back line to full fitness. So Kilkenny, they have their strongest team, I think, coming back onto the team now with those guys like the Cian Kenny, David Blanchfield. They could be on the team, I don't know. But the last day will say they weren't a great subs to come in if they're not picked. Yeah. So they're picking it. There's a strong panel coming there now.
Can I ask, sorry, Owen, on that? I spoke to Liam Sheedy about this when we visited William McCreary and a racing thing. Liam Sheedy's kind of into his and I know it's been spoken about, but for me, Tommy, the weight of the sliotar is a big issue. And I was a friend of mine who's big into Gaelic football. I brought this up in the WhatsApp group the other day, and he said something has to be done. It's not even enjoyable to watch anymore, despite all the talking about it. For me, there are far too many points scored in a hurling game now, where it's like this shouldn't be this easy. I mean, when it's habitual now that teams are scoring 30, 35 points, for me, there's something not quite right there.
Yeah, I'd agree, Johnny, with the excitement of a game. You don't have to have 30 points. There was often games going back through many years, even at the moment, where the ball might only go from the half back line to the other half back line, and the score might be 2-10 to 1-10 or 2-9 to 1-8. But it could be an absolute enthralling match, a battle, in the trenches. So we're probably not seeing battles in the trenches as much. The first time I've seen it in many years was probably down the Gaelic grounds. Why? I don't know. I suppose the Limerick crowd had a big part to play in that. They were so excited. They were so up for it. But I would agree with you, well, what do you do about it? I don't know. How do you manage what sliotar is brought in? Because there's probably 20, 25 sliotars being brought in different bags on a day. Very hard to, talking about microchipping them, but practically on game day, how do you test whether the ball is standard or not? It's difficult. And this is why, Johnny, another point on from that is very hard to play that short game. That passing the ball 30 yards looks very easy, but it's so difficult because you take golf, right? The ball, to me, the guy that doesn't play golf a whole lot, I hear them talking about the ball in golf as well. Every golf ball, I wouldn't be able to tell the difference between a golf ball, put it that way. And say when Rory McIlroy or any of these guys change their clubs, it seems to be a big thing. And that takes them a while to get back into the swing of things. But you look at a hurler, he breaks his hurler. It's made of ash, most of them. He breaks his hurl. The next hurl he gets will not be the same because every ash tree is different. Some are heavier, some are lighter. The way you pond the hoop. the way you ponder your grip, like the hurl will never be the same. Add in the hurling ball will never be the same. You could get a ball in a training session that it could go 1,000,000 miles an hour. It could ping. You could touch it and it could go 60 yards. The next ball you could get, you could have to give it your absolute living best to drive it 50 yards. So it is more difficult, but I don't think there's any way of really stamping it out, Johnny, because like say in a soccer match, there's only so many footballs there. It's probably easy enough to see it, but in a hurling match, you're using 20, 25 balls.
You're a football man, Owen. Is it not a little bit tainted now watching these great games, thinking like it shouldn't be, like Limerick should not be scoring 30 points against decent opposition here?
No, for me, and I'm not sure if Tommy agree with this, for me it's just the dead balls from range is the only thing that I would have had a cram at. But I would have raised this at the start of last year, and I think last year's championship was so good that I kind of was like, well, that was just a league problem. And I find sometimes, and it goes with both codes, that sometimes the league fare can just be poor and we can get carried away with it and say, the sport is broken. For me, it's just the dead balls. I still think that, scoring from range, from open play is amazing. And I think that comes with a really interesting tactical response from teams. Do you push up on teams to ensure that somebody isn't scoring from 70 to 90 yards? And I think that's an intriguing one. It's just the dead balls from 100 yards maybe, which kind of don't sit overly well with me. But I don't know. Go ahead, Tommy, actually, on that one.
Yeah, I think just Johnny, we all agree. I agree with you, and I say every hurling guy does agree with you. It's just the game changes, and sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. You'd hope it comes back around. But I'd say the reason, which I've often thought about, why is the game not as probably as exciting if there's more scores, right? When you got the ball, Johnny, years ago, full back, say Brian Lohan's era, The Rock from Cork, Jackie Turrell, when they got the ball, right, they drove it 100 yards down the field. That brought the crowd to his feet. You think 80,000 people in Croke Park when that happens? Or when Rock came out that day against Limerick.
Lift them more than a score, like.
Yeah, and the whole crowd just gets into the game, you see, John. And it's absolutely exciting. But add to that then, that long ball, where does it go? It goes down into a 50-50. So if that's, we'll say, Gary Kirby versus Liam Dunn, or whether that's, we'll say, Joe Dean versus Brian Lohan, it's a 50-50 ball. Say Joe Dean goes up and catches that over Brian Lohan. Sure, the crowd are going wild again. Suddenly then, if he catches the ball, he's gone around his man, there's a goal chance. So the crowd are constantly, with each passage of play, are going wild. Towards now, if I give a tippy-tappy pass out to, we'll say, Diarmaid Burns, right, that's not going to bring a cheer. That's not going to bring the crowd to his feet. He, gives a tippy-tappy pass down to Gerard Hegarty, who is in space. That's not going to bring a cheer. And then Gerard Hegarty goes into space, puts it over the bar. Yeah, he'll get the cheer for the score, but not the kind of the rousing, fierce, passionate crowd support. I think that's what has changed probably over the years.
I just want to get back to the weekend's hurling. Cork against Clare Sunday, 2:00. You were watching Clare for us last week, and I guess the week beforehand there was plenty of questions asked, some tough questions asked of the Cork defence. This is a huge game, Tommy. The winner of this one is quite possibly going to get that third spot in the Munster Hurling Championship, and the loser may well be going home. But that Clare attack last week, combined with the questions asked of that Cork defence, how big a factor is that going to be in how you're looking at this one?
Yeah, after being at it, there was huge wide open spaces from, we'll say, the 45 in on. Both Tipperary and Clare were playing with two men inside, no sweepers or anything. I think if the game plans out like last week, it will suit Cork down to the one thing Cork just have to start out at the moment on is Cork were going brilliantly. It's just they shipped a couple of goals in the league final, then they had a bad beating by Limerick. But listen, Limerick are beating everybody. Watford seemed to be the only one in the last while to be able to put up to them. They're fresh, they're hungry, Limerick, have to come back from a 6-week break. So I wouldn't read too much into that Cork-Limerick game. The big thing for Cork is just to get back, I remember, say, 2012 when we played Dublin, played them in the Leinster semi-final, and we were up for that. There was rumours that Dublin were going to overturn us in Portlaoise, and we were just psyched for the game. We blew Dublin out of water. We turned up, I think the Leinster final was 2 weeks later, and we were flat. We put so much into that match. Galway beat us convincingly in that Leinster final. And we kind of trudged our way through the season then until the semi-final. And sometimes we had a weekend away in Carton House after we beat Limerick in the quarter final. And remember Racker Cody was going around but he's the kit man in Kilkenny, a fabulous man, and he's like remember Italian 90 the physio, Mick
Byrne,
Mick Byrne. He that kind of a guy, you know, going around, great friends with everyone, great crack, and had the respect of everyone as well. But he was going around Carton House that time. The spirit is back. We're back, lads. We're back. And before we knew it, he was that kind of a character. We were all buzzing again. And that wasn't the only thing, but it was a major part. But I think for Cork, that's what they need going into Sunday. I know tactically, people thought, what do they have to change tactically? Defend a bit better as regards defend, not as individuals, but a group. But I think the first thing they need to sort out is just get back smiling, get back enjoying themselves, get their confidence back, and don't take it so serious. We're getting a lot of criticism at the moment. You know, they're in for a while, and by all accounts, there last weekend. So, listen, hopefully that will, you know, get their mojo back. Cork just need to get their mojo back first and let them off and let them, you know, they'll be well able to beat Clare. They should have no fear of Clare. That's a 50-50 game if ever I saw one. But I think the wide open spaces, if Clare allowed the wide open space that they allowed last weekend, I think it will suit Cork.
Are you surprised Kilkenny are favourites?
To beat Galway? I didn't realise they were, and I'm not surprised. You know, see, Galway, if you look at the Galway team, Johnny, like, they have, you know, Joe Canning is gone, Niall Burke is gone, like big, strong men. I'm not sure what the story is with Conor Whelan, but they've huge physicality gone out of their attack. And, like, they've replaced them with smaller guys, the Evan Nyland, the Brian Concannons. So the dynamic of their team has changed. The last time I was up in Salt Hill, Kilkenny played Galway 2018. It was the year after Galway won the All-Ireland. And they were just they're like Galway at the moment, or they're like Limerick at the moment. They're just, Kilkenny gave them everything. Next minute, Galway switched it on and beat Kilkenny out the gate in the last couple of minutes. That's the type of team they were. They were huge men. They could win the ball anyway. Like, we're talking about the short game, the long game at the moment. Limerick stats, if you bring up stats anyway, they seem to be winning all the types of games. So it's not all to do with game plans. It's a major part of it, but it's not all to do with the great teams will play any way you want. So it's Galway back then, could play it any way you want. Fast forward to now, I think Kilkenny, they have the great balance between the young lads and the older guys, the TJ Reeds and we'll say the Adrian Mullins and the Keane Kennys. Whereas Galway, I think, they're still trying to find out these new guys, you know, what are they going to be like in championship. They had a 6-point lead, Johnny, in Wexford Park. Probably should have, you know, closed that one out and didn't. So I'd say that's why Kilkenny are favourites. Plus, we all remember the last few results. If we're being probably truthful about it, the last few results for Kilkenny was against Laois and Westmeath. They won both of them convincingly. So I think that's what's, like, if we looked at this match, Johnny, after Kilkenny played Cork in the league semi-final, I don't think Kilkenny be favourites.
We had Taggy Fogarty on the show with us earlier this week, Tommy, and he put your team into a time machine to take on this current Limerick team, and we were going through matchups. He put you on Gearóid Hegarty. So how would you go about marking Gearóid Hegarty?
Yeah, well, I was listening to that and I was slagging Taggy the other day. He started off putting Eddie Brendan on Gearóid Hegarty. You know, and I put into the WhatsApp there, and JJ came back and he said, "Go back, Taggy, keep John Kiley thinking." Anyway. You know, and I don't mind me, and Eddie Brendan on Gearóid Hegarty. He thought about putting Shefflin on first. So listen, maybe Taggy is a tactical mastermind. So, you know, I suppose to put Kyle Hayes back in the half-back line, why not put back someone like that on Gearóid Hegarty? But listen, it would have been a fascinating battle. You know, Kilkenny versus Limerick, like, we were a huge team, very skillful. Limerick are a huge team and very skillful, you know. But I think that you brought up a good conversation, I think, was regards, it's a lot of, no, listen, Limerick are a brilliant team and they will go down no matter what happens from now on. But I'd say what will enhance their reputation, if some team does, like, we had that great Tipperary team of Shamie Callan, Polly Maher, Owen Kelly, Lara Corbett, like, they were winning Munster finals, scoring 6 and 7 goals. They were an unbelievable team. And we played the great Cork team. You know, they went for 3 in a row, like some of the all-time greats, Sean Oak, Don Logue, The Rock, Joe Dean, Ben O'Connor, like, just an unbelievable team of their year as well. We had the great Galway team of Joe Canning, could have won a couple of more All-Irelands like that time. That was a brilliant team. We had a great Waterford team of Ken McGrath, Dan Shannon, Milan. So, like, we came up against sensational teams. And over a long period of time, like from 1999 when Cork beat, you know, say Henry would have been on that team, up as far as 2015 was the last All-Ireland. So we were lucky, probably different players came along at different times as well. But this Limerick team is sensational. And it would have been an unbelievable battle between us. But I'd say what would enhance, and I'd say they'd love it as well, is if another great team does come along here now and take them on, maybe beat them in an All-Ireland or a semi-final, then Limerick come back and beat them again. Wouldn't that be brilliant? And the likes of this Cork and Waterford and maybe this Kilkenny team, you know, might be able to do something about it. I don't know.
Yeah, the Kilkenny one is obviously the fascinating element of all of this. It feels like a long time ago when Kilkenny did beat them. But
yeah, well, take it even if you took the teams that were out, were named in some of them teams, like you had Jackie Tyrrell, as he said, on Gillette. I'd nearly put Jackie out in Hegarty. Imagine the two of them guys. I'd have a chat with the referee. I'd say, John Kiley and Cody, go up to the referee now before the game, say, right, ref, if the ball goes in between the two of them, leave your whistle in your pocket. Just let the two of them, whichever ends up out in the stand.
So, likeness to the sliotar doesn't matter there.
No, like say Shefflin. Trying to think now of the Limerick team. You know, put Shefflin over and Diarmaid Burns. Diarmaid Burns scoring 5 points from play, 4 points from play, and a couple of frees. You know, let him follow Shefflin around the field. You know, Eddie Brennan in corner back on Sean Finn. You know, Taggy even on Sean Finn. You know, like, to be unbelievable. Gorta, you know, huge man, Gorta. Put him in there who's full back for him at the moment. There was Dan Morrissey, Mike Casey. You know, big man, small man. Mike Casey, huge muscles. You know, strong on the ground. Gorta just, you know, one of our best ball winners of all time. Just made so many careers, Gorta did, by passing off the ball and creating chances. That would have been sensational. JJ. Who would you put JJ? Put JJ on Galan. You know, to be even thinking of it there now, like Nicky Quaid versus, you know, David Hurley, PJ Ryan, James McGarry, Owen Murphy, whichever them boys. Like, I think them one-on-one matchups would have been sensational. I'd say Noel Hickey. Who will we put Hickey on? I think we'll tell him to leave the referees leave the whistle in the pocket for that one as well. Maybe put him on Flanagan. You know, Flanagan's a tough man. Hickey's a tough man. So I think the battles would have been sensational. Put Chad Fitzpatrick on Will O'Donoghue. You know, big man, small man again, like Chad Genius. Like, he's one of the best midfielders they ever played. I played with him in school in St. Kieran's College. He had a sidestep when he came in, and 13 years of age into Kieran's, no one could mark. He was a small guy. He came into our Kieran senior panel in fourth year. An absolute genius, as tough as nails. Could win the ball anyway, high ball, low ball, won Féiles, won minor All-Irelands, he won everything. You know, he finished up a bit early, but his career was... Imagine him on Will O'Donoghue. Like, Will O'Donoghue's an angry midfielder. Imagine how angry he'd be one after Chavez. So, listen, it will be a sensational match. There's no point in saying other. Mick Fennelly. Even Mick Fennelly may be on Will O'Donoghue. We're going to talk about this.
It sounds like you haven't thought about it at all,
Your
Tommy.
record will be back playing soon.
Just a couple of very quick ones before we let you go. Patrick Colin's been in touch. If Tommy was playing, who would he want as manager, Cody or Henry?
The Emperor or the King? Listen, I'm two of them. Joint managers.
I'm
sure that'll work either.
They should know me at this stage. They should know me at this stage. I'm not going to pick between the two of them.
And then finally,
Cody did. Sorry. Yeah, go on. Yeah.
Do you want to finish your point there? This is the good stuff. No,
that's good.
Cody did something. A caption here, like, you know, what did Cody do?
I'm saying he never dropped me on. He did pick me in the first year and dropped me in the last year. So our loyalty, you know. We'll ask Henry how would he pick the team first.
And then just one quick shout out before we go, Tommy.
Yeah, shout out. So I suppose when I started this last week, and it's something I had in my head for a long time, and there's no team to this. It could be anyone, it could be any person, it could be a player, a manager, selector, it could be a commentator, kit man, could be anything. But the man I chose this week is an absolute legend from Waterford, Michael Ryan. He's in probably my thoughts the last couple of months since I saw the article that he retired as manager or coach, selector, I'm not sure what actually he was there with Ballymacarbery. They're after winning 40 county finals in a row, and he stepped away. And you think this man, he's after doing it all. Did he step away and he wants to put the feet up? No, because I think he's still coach or manager with 4 Mile Water hurling team, which is that team in there, and the Nair football team, which is the football senior team in that area. 4 Mile Water got to the semi-finals last year. The Nair, great football team, traditional powerhouse in Waterford. He was also a selector with the Waterford under-20 team. I think they were beaten last night, but he was selected with them. So this man, he didn't just retire and walk off into the sunset. He's just so heavily involved. Well, I was just looking back at some of his stats, right? So he retired after Ballymacarbery winning 40 county finals in a row. And I'd love to actually, someone might tweet it in or text in, like, does anyone have 20 or 30 county finals on that team? It'd be amazing to see. Yeah. But before that, Johnny, he led him to 10 Club All-Irelands, Ballymacarbery, back in the 80s and I think it was the 90s. 14 Munster clubs. He's a few stints. His first stint with Ballymacarbery was 1975. Amazing stuff. You know, he stepped away in 08 but came back in 18. He has 5 All-Irelands with the Waterford ladies football team as well. I think he was manager of the Laois ladies football team as well. He coached many other teams to major titles. He was with De La Salle when they won a Munster club. John Milan, Kevin Moran, Jake Dillon, that team. He was with Waterford seniors. I know they could have bet us in 2013. It went to extra time down in Thurles. That was, you know, could easily went on maybe that year and won an All-Ireland. He went up then to Westmeath. Himself and Mickey Welch from Kenny went up to Westmeath. Just what a GAA man. Like, you know, he's been involved since 1975 in all hurling, football, ladies, Gillette football, camogie. So listen, my big shout is Michael Ryan, Waterford, Ballymacarbery, 4 Mile Water, Denier, you name it, this man has done it. And well done to Michael on a fantastic career and best of luck going forward.
His line to Malachy Clerkin in his interview was, I get bored very easily. The more I watch soccer and games on television, the more I want to get out and do something on the pitch.
Yeah.
It's nice to see.
Good luck to the future shout-outs trying to match those tallies that you just put up there. Incredible stuff. Tommy Welch, always a pleasure. Enjoy the weekend's hurling.
Yeah. Thanks a million, lads. Best of luck. Bye-bye.
Cheers. You'll hear Tommy across the weekend, obviously, as well. A couple of massive hurling games coming up on Sunday in particular.